we recording everything now? Everything's recording?
Everything's good.
Okay. Again, welcome to Greybeard Syndicate, where we've had great people like Sue LaRue on here, and now the great Daniel Considine. Is it Dine?
Considine, yeah.
That's easy.
Working on being great.
The first time I met him, I thought it was Italian, and it was Considine.
Considine.
We teased about that.
I get Greek a lot, but it's actually Irish.
Irish.
Considine, yeah.
And we met a month ago.
Yeah.
A month ago.
Met a month ago through our friend Scott Haynes.
Yes, which we've got to bring him in here too. And
yeah,
when he comes, it'd be nice if you came too, so we could talk about that thing he did and the little shooting we did. Not shooting, video shooting we did.
Yeah, we've been shooting guns and commercials, so we'll have to differentiate between the two. But we shot a commercial about your gun store.
About shooting.
Yes, that's. So that's how we got connected, and then you've been kind of showing me the ropes with shooting guns.
Correct. On the simulator and down on the range today. So what we met, Scotty brought you up to do a project with me on the NFA, which is really in the news right now, a lot, the NFA process, with that big, beautiful bill. What's that called?
Oh, Big Beautiful Bill.
Big Beautiful Bill, right?
Yeah, I haven't read the details. So
yeah, I've not either. There's only two details, something about suppressors and something about short barrel rifles. I really didn't care
That's
about
all
the rest
you cared about? Nice.
Right? I mean, in my world, that's really all it is. You know?
Yeah.
It's all I really care about. Yes, I do care about money for the country. I got it. This is supposed to be like a budget. And I do care about that, but what can I do about it, really? Right?
I got no control over it. Yeah.
I got no control.
I can't speculate too much.
So we did was it a commercial, or I guess it's more of a commercial.
Yeah,
we filmed.
It's kind of a funny sketch commercial,
and then and that's when you figured out, hey, I can train with these guys.
Yeah, I've been working with a stunt group, doing some training with them for about a year and a half, and like I want to do more military films.
Oh,
so
right.
I mean, I also want to actually be able to defend myself, because it's been years since I was in the Army. I was artillery, so it's not like I got great CQB skills or whatever. So, a lot of the shooting that you've already taught me is far and beyond what I learned in the Army, so it's been really nice.
Maybe we should bring up the fact that you are an actor. We haven't done that yet.
Yes.
He is an actor, right? Lives down in Nashville. Used to be in Cali.
Yeah.
Moved here
2021.
2021.
Yeah, 4 years.
Terrible time to move here, I guess, during the whole COVID, right after the
Well,
COVID
it was great to leave LA during that time.
Hence the being in a commercial for us kind of thing. And then we went through this training. So the training is to help you, I guess, broaden your, I will say, tactical horizon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And maybe, I think I pointed you in the right direction as far as the way some people think shooting really isn't that way if you want to be effective at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see in movies, folks really don't handle a handgun properly. Now, I think you and I discussed this about they're not supposed to sometimes.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah. We've talked about this.
Sometimes they, I could teach you how to hold a gun and be an assaulter all day long.
Yeah.
But if you are the, like I call, beta male father figure that isn't supposed to be like that, that would look awkward in a film, right?
Right. And then there's also like the lethal weapon, like 90s cop with, bring it down.
What do I say? I always call it Charles Bronson.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The stuff like that. But you see that in film all the time. And maybe you should, depending on the movie's premise,
Yeah, depending on the character.
Exactly.
Like, when acting with stunts or with guns, like exactly what you're saying, if you're a bumbling fool and you've never shot before, you're gonna wanna, maybe do that Charles Bronson or what you've seen in movies. And then I honestly didn't know all these like differences and nuances, and so working with you, it's allowed me to kind of be like, oh, okay, if I'm if I'm going to be this assassin or, you know, this operator, whatever, I'm going to do the John Wick style. I'm going to hold it, you know. But it's really nice to have for that like arsenal of like, okay, I can walk on set and I know this role. I know this character.
This is what he's wanting.
Yeah.
Make it
And
happen.
same with like the stunt training. It's like, you might be throwing a big wide punch as if you're fighting at a bar, you know, you're drunk, or you're a trained killer and, you know,
Right,
you've
keep
got your
everything
tight move. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's been great. I mean, today we shot 10 different guns,
Yes.
which is
Everything.
super cool. A couple of World War II guns, some rifles, some pistols.
Yeah.
Went
Just
through.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Because that helps you when you're like, handle a firearm properly on set. You know, like, okay, this is how AK is actually supposed to be handled. You know,
Yeah, I mean, like gun safety on set is huge right now.
you can ask what's his face that what's his name?
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, that guy.
Well, yeah, and from that, it's like a reminder. So there's actors in my community, even me. Like it's been 10 years since I've been in the Army, and I haven't really shot much, just a couple times at the range. So it's like just that comfortability, like respecting the weapon, but also knowing exactly how to hold it. You know, move around with it, whether it's on set or real life, is. I mean, it's really important.
So, back out of the Army. So, let's back up just a touch.
Sure.
Just a touch. So, prior to the Army,
Yeah.
or it's not prior to the Army. Well, we'll go prior to the Army. Where were you raised, pretty much? Where did you start?
I was born in Fayetteville, Arkansas. My parents went to the University of Arkansas. When I was 2, we moved to Pryor, Oklahoma, which is a small town outside of Tulsa. My dad had been in the Army, was in the reserves at that point. He was a high school teacher. He was my high school football coach. I'm one of 6 kids. My 3 brothers and we all went to West Point, along with 2 of my cousins. So I kind of followed in my cousin's footsteps. But when I was a kid, I was doing sports mainly, but doing children's theater. That was a big. So that was my dream when I was a young kid, like 10, 11, 12. Like, I'm gonna do theater. And all I knew was like Broadway. So when the theater program kind of, it stopped when I was about 13 in my small town. So then there was choir. So I joined choir. And
Did it take?
No, not at all. And that's why I was like, after 2 years of that, I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to be an actor. And I didn't even realize, like, the concept of being on TV and film at that time was like, those aren't real people. Those are, you know, that could never be me. So I just kind of let that dream go, and was not great at sports. But my dad being a football coach, he like just worked me. So by the time I got older and started developing, I was decent athlete. And then West Point, because my cousins and older brother had gone there, it just seemed like a great fit to get far away from Oklahoma.
Isn't there like there's a very strict process to get into West Point, as is, isn't there not?
Yeah.
I mean, recommendations, letters, stuff
senators'
like that.
recommendations, or Congress member. There's that. I mean, you just have to be well-rounded, you know, be involved with school activities, sports, Boy Scouts. Not that I did that, but, you know, things like that, like leadership.
1,000 a year? No, how many a year?
Yeah, I think they accept maybe 12 or 1,300, and I think about 1,000 graduate or less. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The attrition rate's somewhat, I mean, it's pretty high for.
So did you go all 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I graduated from West Point.
And then straight to artillery.
Straight to artillery. Yeah. I had a mentor, which it's Memorial Day, and my mentor at West Point, he actually died in combat, so I'll give Major Tom Kennedy a shout out. My senior year at West Point, he was the coolest dude. He was my tactical officer for my summer detail, and he was an artilleryman who had gotten his Ranger tab, and I talked to him. I wanted to do aviation, but my eyesight wasn't great.
Guilty.
And exactly. My class rank wasn't the best. I after my freshman year, I was bottom of the class, and I worked my way up to about 500 out of 1,000. But basically, infantry was a little more competitive. So he was like, dude, do artillery. You can go to Ranger school, like do that whole thing. So I did follow him in his footsteps. And yeah, so that was back to Oklahoma, but Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then I was stationed at Fort Carson with 4th ID for
So you deal with
basically the
Colorado
rest of
Springs.
I had to deal with it. Yeah, I got to learn snowboarding, and oh man, beautiful. I loved my time in Colorado.
So I was explaining to the guys that were in here earlier. They asked what this was, and I say, "This is a piece of a 155 round."
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
here, right?
yeah.
And and I was explaining to them why the artillery is the king of battle. You
Yeah.
know? They don't depict artillery enough in the movies
Right.
about how brutal and how much it is used, especially by the Russians. You know,
Right.
and one of the items you really look for on the battlefield is indirect fire.
Yeah.
You got to neutralize that indirect fire because of that right there.
Yeah.
You know this. So
That's
this
bigger than
piece,
a bullet,
it's
that's
very
for sure.
sharp. You're familiar with that, right
Yes.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
I found that on a drop zone here.
Oh, no kidding.
So that went from the impact area
Yeah.
to the drop zone. Is where it landed.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying it landed next to me and where did that come from?
Right, right.
I just happened to
You
be
just found
sitting
it.
on the drop zone. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's from fucking artillery. So yeah.
As I told Doc, I was like, I actually don't recognize that because I was never on the receiving end of artillery.
Yeah. So you get it. It's assembled, right? It's fully assembled. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it. You send it, and then it comes unassembled.
Yeah.
Got it. So West Point, Fort Sill, which is artillery.
Yeah. That's the home of the artillery.
Fort Sill, and then did you just do one tour? How long?
Yeah.
how
I
long
basically, I did.
you
I
were
went to
officer, so
Afghanistan.
it wasn't a tour. It was.
Yeah, we call it a tour, deployment, whatever.
I'm talking about tour, like a tour of duty total. You know, like
Oh, okay. I just had the one duty station. I was able to finagle my way into staying at Fort Carson.
did you get to go to Iraq and Afghanistan?
Just Afghanistan and Kuwait. I didn't. So Afghanistan was 2012. I went with an advisory team, actually, so didn't get to do artillery at all over there. And then back with my artillery battalion in 2015 to Kuwait. And my platoon, I just started working in the 3 shop, and my platoon was forward. They were supporting a Marine base up in Iraq. I can't remember. But so they actually got to shoot and
Okay.
defend, which was pretty cool because it was all my guys, but I was just like watching from afar.
Moving a big whiz wheel.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even. Do they still do that as a backup?
I was with Paladin, so
Okay. All right.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everything's digital.
Yeah, it was all the FA TIDs. Yeah, so never got to do that. And train, yeah, you do in training. You do it all manual with like the fire direction.
We, I started off in my SF career as an 18 Bravo.
Okay.
Weapons. Of course, we had to learn mortars.
Yeah.
Everything from shooting said mortar to FDC,
Yeah.
fire direction control.
Yeah.
And that's where the whiz wheel comes in. You know, and you would be surprised how many folks fail that part. I mean,
Oh, it's actually really tough.
well, if you go to school for it, you know, for FDC, that's your school.
Yeah.
That is such a small portion of the 18 Bravo course,
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
You
But you
guys
still
have
got
to
to
know
it.
everything.
You still have to know that whiz wheel and how
Right.
to use that thing and the whole 9 yards. And yeah,
Did you have to use the battle axe, like the big, for manual plotting? Like it's whatever it is. It's to chart. Like you probably didn't with mortar. Okay.
No, we just had this little wheel we moved around and
Yeah, yeah. I know
mark
what
it
you're
with
talking
a
about.
pencil
Put the
and then
pen
move it
down.
around
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's all we had to do. But yeah, it slayed a bunch of folks. We called it Jason because it slayed everybody.
Yeah.
That test. One guy handed it, as soon as he handed his test in, turned around, passed out.
Oh,
Right there on wall walking.
what year did you get in the Army?
84.
Oh, 84. Okay.
Yeah. And then I was in the Q course in 92, I think, or 3, something like that. I was infantry prior to that, you know, that kind
Okay.
of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, poor high angle hell artillery is just not easy work.
Yeah.
Infantry, point him that way, go that way and do that. But some folks believe that the infantry is a lesser MOS, as in you don't have to be as smart, but you'd
No.
be surprised how smart you had to
Oh,
be
yeah.
approved for infantry. Everybody's like, just be a grunt. That doesn't work that way.
No way. Well, that at West Point, that was one of the most competitive brand. It was like aviation and infantry. Everyone wanted to go. So if I had gone infantry, I would have been last in my class, stationed at Fort Polk out of the infantry guys. But since I went artillery, I was able to get like Colorado Springs. So that was my motivation for going.
Right.
Like my brother's infantry right now. Two of my brothers are infantry, and it's it's competitive, and they're really sharp guys.
Did you get to go to jump school or anything like that?
I went to air assault and ranger school.
Okay.
Yeah, did not go to. My unit was like, we want you back immediately. And then when I got back from ranger school, they're like, oh, we didn't expect you to finish this fast. We thought you'd recycle a couple more times. I was like, oh, I could have gone to airborne school. Damn.
In the mean, I could have went there and they'd have never known.
No, they wouldn't. My battalion commander was like, oh, you should have popped over to across the street to airborne school. I was like, thanks for letting me know. Can I go back? He's like, absolutely not.
Right.
We're going to Afghanistan.
A lot of my friends always ask you about Houston, because he's stationed down at Benning. Is he going to airborne school? And all that? Like, they automatically assume everybody has to go to airborne school.
Right.
Right. And I believe that unless you're going to a billet, airborne billet slot at a unit, what's the use?
Yeah.
And he, with his particular job, he doesn't need to go to jump school and get hurt and take up somebody else's slot that needs it.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, for me, it would have been like an ego thing where it's like, okay, I got another badge on the uniform. There was I was in mechanized, artillery unit.
Death before dismount.
Yeah.
That's right. Death before dismount.
I'm not getting out of here.
So, what triggered you to get out of the Army?
Well, it was kind of there was a time it was a field training exercise, and which can be pretty fun actually. It's like you finally get to go out and shoot your guns, and but I was sitting out looking across my 4 paladins in my platoon, and just like leaning on my Humvee, and I was like, okay, this is fun. It's been good. I'd already deployed, and I was just like, but is this what I want to do? Like, am I passionate about this? And it kind of had that was like the first seed of doubt. And then the field grades some were great, but a few field grades, they're like lifestyles. I was like, they don't seem happy. They seem like this doesn't.
Usually,
so it's
especially
kind of
starting
like
at major.
Yeah.
Because, captain, you're in charge of a company.
Yeah.
Those are your boys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are your boys.
That's like best time in
Once
the
you
Army.
major, I think SF is the only one that has a major and a command.
Right.
Everybody else, they're a staff.
Yeah.
I'd be miserable too.
Yeah.
I'd want to start the nearest 1911.
Yeah.
If it would work.
I think a lot of them did. Yeah. And another thing, like I was noticing me and my buddies that did okay and were, good platoon leaders or whatever, we would just get more responsibility as like the guy that was kind of our peers that were not carrying their slack or messing up. They'd kind of get pushed aside to like an easier job for, and like, let's push them aside. And then they would go to career course and get whatever job, or like, we were all advancing the same, but like if the people that tried hard and like were, took pride in their job just got like beat, I don't know, just used up, So it was like me and my buddies were
exactly
like, we can't. It was unsustainable. I was like, what's the return on this? I'm just getting used up here.
Prior to SF, guys who would go to school, college, they'd go to college while they're in the Army and all this stuff, and they were getting out of exercises. They didn't have to go do these certain things as a unit because they were off doing college or whatever. But those of us that were, I didn't go to college. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was with the unit, being a leader there the whole time.
Right.
But got skipped over because they now had college under their belt and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? And that frustrated the shit out of me, especially on the infantry side of the house.
Oh, yeah.
It was another reason why I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
I went SF instead.
Yeah, I had a commander that he wasn't great, and he had some personal stuff that he had to work through, that like family stuff that I respect him for doing, but he just wasn't able to like be a great present commander, and he didn't. I was kind of like, this guy's really screwing over the battery here. Like, and my field grades that I was close to, they'd be like, oh, they'd kind of make fun of the situation and be like, oh, you're still dealing with so-and-so. And he just, nothing really happened, got decent reviews and just kept going. And I was like, this is not good, because they just kind of reward mediocrity, and the system does. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a red flag too, where towards the end, me and a couple buddies were like, all right, you're going to do this and you got to do this. And this guy, we're going to push him away at brigade and like kind of hide him. So you're going to take some of his responsibilities. And that's when it just like, I can't do this. I can't keep going.
So, all right. So you were like, you know what? I'm out. I resigned my commission.
Yeah.
Right. And decided, you know what? I'm going to go star in a movie. Is that how it happened?
No, there were a few steps in between.
Is that how it happened to you? So, you know what?
Yeah.
You wake up one day, I'm going to go star in a fucking movie.
Well, in my head, I thought it could be that easy. But no, I actually, in my 20s, when I was in the Army, I was obsessed with everything music. Spotify had just come out, and it was like, I was selling everyone on, you got to get it. We can connect our music.
Choir more.
I should have. But my dream was to go work at Spotify. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and get in the music business, just like, but then I realized I was like, I have no skills to like, what is Spotify has no use for me. So I was like, I got to figure this out. So when I was
an artilleryman. I was an artillery commander.
No, we did the classic
resume.
The classic officer resume is like, I was in charge of $10 billion worth of equipment, and you know, it's like, you know, whatever.
Did you ever watch The Pacific? The series The Pacific?
Yeah.
Remember when he went to school, went to that, what was it? He went to a gymnasium and they were talking about job fair. Was it a job fair? And they asked, what were you good at? I'm good at killing people.
Yeah, I couldn't have put
how to kill people. I
wasn't able to put that on my resume.
I'm really good at it. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just move over there.
What are you at Spotify?
A little bit. I never applied to Spotify, but I was in Kuwait my last 3 months of the Army, and then they let me go for a couple months to go do interviews and stuff. And I got really lucky. My buddy had interviewed with this tech company called Oracle, and he's like, hey, they're hiring veterans. And so in my head, I was like, if I get into tech, then I can get some skills, translate over to get over to Spotify, because it's ultimately a technology company. So that was my plan. And then I moved out to San Diego, worked for that company. It wasn't great. It wasn't like a great culture fit. I was basically trying to figure out my purpose, because that first 2 years out of the Army is nice because it's like, here's your task and purpose. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to think about like, what am I here for? Yeah, what am I here for? What do I want to do in my life? So you don't ask those questions. But those first 2 years, I was working in that tech company, and it wasn't the company so much. I just didn't know. I didn't have any direction, and so I was pretty depressed. And I was looking for like really like therapists, and I stumbled upon life coaching, and I was like, "What is this?" And I got hooked up with one of those guys, and it was the best thing I ever did, because the first question he asked me was like, "Okay, don't tell me about your problems with your job, career, relationships, whatever, money." He's like, "Just what do you want to do? Like, what would you do if there was no restrictions?" And I, in my head, immediately acting, because that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. But I was too embarrassed to even like admit that. I was 29 at the time. And he asked me the next week, and then he asked me a week later. And 2 weeks later, I finally was like, all right, I've been sitting on this, but it's acting. And he's like, great, let's build a plan. Like, you're 2 hours from LA. And he's like, let's work on getting, you know, all these other problems sorted. And within a year, I was up in LA, and after got a new job at a different company, which was like a godsend, because I was at Salesforce, and it was just way better fit, great team, great manager, great money. So I was able to be in LA and like be comfortable, and then just focus on like, okay, I got my 9 to 5. Let me go find some acting classes. Mm-hmm. And once I got into my first acting class, a couple months in, started asking people, okay, how do you do this? How do I get headshots? And it was it seemed like a slow process, but I had some really great friends that I met through that kind of just like gradually like, okay, this is where you need to go for your headshots. Now let's film something so you can put it on reel.
Right.
now let's, here's the audition sites, Actors Access, whatever. So that was 2018 or 2019. And it was just like, well, yeah, 2019 I loved LA. It was such a fun year, met amazing people. And then 2020 comes around. I had just started auditioning. I booked this short film, or no, it was a student film, but it was a feature film where I was playing a World War II soldier. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, we've come full circle. My first role is like a, soldier. And
I'm prepared for this. It's on my resume.
And it was my first audition, and I booked it, and I was just like, okay, this is happening. And my friend, she, her dad's a very successful director, and she was just like, hey, do you want to like shoot some stuff for our reel? So I thought we were going to go to her house and shoot some stuff on like a iPhone, and it was like a full on crew. Her dad was there helping her out, and I got to meet him, and I was just like, wow, I've made it. Like this is happening. And like a week later, COVID shutdown happens, the announcement, acting classes are canceled. Eventually we go back, we start training on Zoom, but like everything just like stopped. No auditions, no acting, no nothing. And it was that, 2020 was just rough, and just isolation, just total, like didn't see another person for 3 straight months, and while LA was closed, and everyone was just terrified to be around each other. Right. I actually visited my buddy who had moved to Nashville, and we had a golf trip like later on in 2020, and that's kind of what sparked the interest in moving to Nashville. By that point, I get to Nashville, and everyone's like, no mask. Everyone's just living their life, and we had a great golf weekend. Yeah, and then I go back to LA, and they're like, all right, we're going to open up in like 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, I'll stick it out in LA. And that happened 2 more times where they like open it up, and then they're like, no, we're going to close everything down. So it was just like that tease. And finally in early 2021, I was like, all right, I gotta go elsewhere. I also met a great acting coach that I got to train with over Zoom during 2020. She was out of Atlanta. Sarah Banyan's her name, and she was like, okay, you're 32, you've got barely anything on your resume, you're just like average white guy in LA, like you're never going to come to the Southeast and build your resume here. And I think it was the best advice. So that's what prompted the move to the Southeast, and it's been wonderful. It's great community, tons of creatives. I got some West Point buddies that are stationed at Fort Campbell, so been able to reconnect with my Army buddies
too. 160th buddy, was he?
I got a 160th buddy, a buddy on A15, and right. And then just 101st, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's been really nice.
Small world.
It is, yeah.
Good. So you move here, so that's where we're at right now. You have now moved to the Southeast.
Yes.
Home of the Southeastern Conference.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
That's right. Football land.
Go Arkansas.
And we'll get to the movie here in a minute. Let's back up.
Okay.
What did you have in between there? Did you have any roles in between there that folks may be aware of or be able to find?
No. There's some on YouTube. Did a number of short films. Mm-hmm. The great thing about the community in Nashville, a lot of people have moved from LA and New York. The community is just like, all right, let's make stuff. I got actors that were, directors first, sound guys first, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so there's all these skills, and everyone's like, hey, we can figure this out. Like, so we were able to make some fun films. Our acting studio had a film competition every year. And so, we would do that. I did a fun kind of a comedy with them. And so it was just like getting reps. And that, nothing, I think like a couple small roles and some like indie feature films.
Just look you up on YouTube and they'll find them, or?
Yeah, you can, IMDb is the best.
Okay, yeah.
I have a couple linked in my Instagram profile. If you like follow the link tree there, you can watch. There's some that like went through the film festival route, so I could actually like start posting them, because that's one thing about short films and feature films that you do like independently. A lot of times you can't share them for like a year or two until they've gone through the film festivals that the director wants to put them and stuff. So, but I do have some stuff. Yeah. my reels on IMDb, and there's some other projects that I should be adding soon this year. So yeah.
So all right, elephant in the room.
Yeah.
So you were, and I would venture to say probably, I wouldn't say lead actor, but I would say number one supporting actor in Lady Ballers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hilarious. Hilarious. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. It is funny. It's funny, but they're not trying to be serious about this fucking movie.
No.
You can tell with the acting they didn't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, I'm not trying to be serious about this. It was just different watching this movie. I'm not saying it's some epic movie like what we discussed earlier, the Holy Grail. No, it's not that good, but it is a funny movie, and you could tell that they were like, you know what? We are going to tell you our views, whether you like it or not.
They have a way of forcing their views on.
Yes.
Very bluntly, without nuance. But I mean, they wanted to make a '90s style comedy that's like, it's comedy. Like in this day and age, comedians are kind of rising to the top because they're joking about topics. They're making fun of everything. They are kind of becoming the truth tellers. I'm speaking more of like stand-up comedians. I've worked with some of them recently, and it's like I admire them because they would say stuff on stage to be funny, and then I'm like, wow, they get canceled, and they go through that, and then they rise above, and then, and I think Hollywood is starting to catch on to like, oh, these guys are still successful because they're saying these things to find the humor and the truth in these things. And I think there was a little bit of that in the film we made, a little bit. So yeah, in the process of making that, it felt like all these conservative people were coming in, and as an actor, it's like I was one of the few actors that were just acting.
That's
in
what,
film.
Literally today, when I was watching it this morning before, I was like, he's the only actor in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Everybody else are right-wing or conservative pundits. And
a lot of them work with the Daily Wire, politicians,
personalities.
They're like conservative personalities.
Yes, they're not actors. Now, I'm not saying they did a bad job. They actually did pretty good. I guess they, with a little bit of patience, anybody could do it, I guess. But you were the only actor in there, and you were right up front, right off the bat. It's all about you, for the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie.
Right. And that was something I didn't know going in. But as we got to making it, I was definitely getting worried. There's some backlash online that was calling me a Nazi, which I'm actually very sensitive, so that, hurt my feelings, but it was also a good lesson of like, this is an internet warrior that I don't need to be reading these people's opinions. But also in the making of that, it was like, okay, it was like every conservative pundit I had ever heard of was like coming on, just like, oh man, this is not subtle. Like,
didn't help.
Yeah. So it started morphing, but I have to say, like, watching it, jokes kept getting like heightened as we made it, and not all of them made it. I think the editor did a really good job of kind of like getting it back to what it was supposed to be, like making it a little more chill. Yeah, and it ended up being pretty funny in a lot of areas. Yeah, and
didn't make it on the silver screen.
No, they wanted to, and I think they were going to pay for it, and then I think theaters at the last minute were like, no, we're not going to let this happen. I think they're kind of, in their typical trolling fashion, they wanted to like get it in theaters knowing that it would get removed within days because of people, and uprising. So it was on the Daily Wire app, and I think it's now on Apple. They just released it.
Yeah, like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, but that's not, that's not where it ended for you. You've obviously done other stuff besides that. So after Lady Ballers, Did you have a hard time finding anything? You were having a rough time there for a little bit.
I was, which I mean, it coincided with the actor strike, the writer strike.
Oh, no. On top of that, right?
All those things just compounded. So, I also kind of went into a kind of my own, a little bit, I wouldn't say self-sabotage, but like kind of a dark hole of like, oh boy, what have I done? And like, will I ever work again? And, it was a lot of like self-imposed maybe punishment, of like, how's this going to be? But I worked with them one more time on Pendragon, which is a series that's coming out this fall. It's like not political, not religious. And that was my like original kind of goal. It's, well-written project. And we shot in Hungary, and it was one of the best experiences I met some really great friends from Australia and England, just other actors that I'd still keep in touch with almost daily. And, so it was a really fun experience shooting with that. And then after that, it was kind of just silent in 2024. But again, like the industry had slowed down quite a bit too. So, last year was just slow creatively, and a lot of it was just like not kind of having faith in myself to create my own stuff and like put myself out there with other filmmakers. And I will say like the first half of this year has been really fun and rewarding because I've just started working and collaborating with like some filmmakers around Nashville, and it seems like everyone's kind of
a lot
like
of folks don't realize Nashville is like Hollywood Part 2.
Definitely. I mean, the music industry has brought a lot of people. Obviously, it's a big music town, but more and more actors are moving there just because it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your family, and you don't have to be in Hollywood. I mean, a lot of productions have left Hollywood, but the Southeast is getting more and more independent films. I'm auditioning for stuff in Kentucky, North Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans. So it's just become so democratized as far as like location and where it's all. Like, there's no hub, or there's no major hubs anymore that like have a monopoly on the industry. So it has been nice to kind of like branch out, and it's just not as limiting. So you can do self tapes from anywhere, and the community is great. There's multiple acting studios with some like. I mean, the acting studio I'm at, Fourth Wall, just has incredible actors.
Fourth Wall?
Yeah, it's called the Fourth Wall.
Okay.
And it's an amazing community of like great, inspiring actors. So it's so nice to be around that. Even LA has an acting corner or acting class on every corner, but there's so many of like people are like, do I want to do this? And like you're starting with beginners and whatever. And surprisingly, the community has just been growing so fast, but with so many people coming from everywhere else, that there's some really experienced, great actors that I'm kind of like looking up to and being like, oh,
so you're still going through acting classes?
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever stop.
Right.
It's like the British style is to go to conservatory or like drama school for 2 years. And then they may never go back to acting, and obviously, or acting class. And obviously they have a great system, and there's incredible actors from England, and but America's style has always been like a ton of American actors go through the class and stay in class, and there's different types of acting class that you can find to work on different, whether it's like actually scene study and like understanding a script and a character, and then like, I mean, breathing techniques, movement techniques, all kinds of different things to train your instrument. The one in Nashville is it's like scene study. You're doing scenes with partners, and everyone's kind of got like the basics down, and you're just kind of able to play and
Okay.
Yeah,
Build with each other and
just get reps. I mean, I did take like 9 months off class after Lady Ballers and Pendragon, and then I got in front of a camera and I was like, oh, like this is kind of a shock to my system. So I was like, I got to get back in class and like just, I don't want to lose the
edge.
All right.
Yeah,
Just that comfortability.
So of course, none of them is as large as the Black Armor Guns commercial that you.
Oh yes,
That's your pinnacle. That's going to take you over to
the peak
the
of my
edge,
career.
the next Tom Cruise.
Yeah, once he sees that, he's like, "We're gonna have to make another Mission Impossible where I give you the reins." That was incredible.
Stupid commercial. On my part, I was the producer and director of that, and there's your.
Oh yeah,
Fingers
my fingers,
over
my
there.
stunt fingers. Thank you for not making me
Stunt
do
fingers.
my own stunt on that.
And you got to use your feet, which you said you can add to your resume.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into Tarantino's last film.
Yeah.
So that footage will go a long way, I'm sure.
So, how do you get in? Let's say Tarantino's got a film coming out in 2 years. You're like, hey, I'd really like to be involved with this. How does Daniel? Do you apply for that? Do you just show up for auditions?
It's a lot of. I mean, the best thing would be to have a really successful career where he's like, I want to. Yeah, like Tarantino is. He's gonna pick actors.
Here's a name.
Yeah, well, he's special, where he can like just pick the cream of the crop of who's who of great actors right now. I mean, like with many directors, it's like they have their casting directors that they choose. Those casting directors have ideal agencies that they work with. Obviously, there's CAA and WME, and then the kind of those big top tier one agents that they're going to try to get actors from there because they've got the most momentum behind their career. And then, I mean, there's a ton of other like kind of tier two agents that they're pitching their people. Hey, my guy would be great for this, and so it's really just like networking, getting your face in front of the right casting director. Like ideally, your agent's working with you to pitch you to those.
And you have agent.
I have an agent,
Okay.
Cookie McRae here in Nashville, and then Linda Lehman Agency in Oklahoma. So I have two. She's just like Wendy from Linda Lehman's just covers Oklahoma, but you can. A lot of people have like a New York or LA agent, a manager, like so they just try to cover as much area as you can because certain casting directors are just like London and they're casting for all of Europe, and ideally I want to get on more shows shooting in Europe. It's like all of Marvel is shooting in the UK these days. A ton of stuff is in Hungary. They have an amazing crew,
Really?
and production studios there. Yeah.
Why Hungary?
I think their tax incentives. That's the big thing, and that's like where Trump and John Voight just pitched like some federal tax incentives to bring films back to America because it's cheaper to like fly 200 crew and cast members out to film a movie in Ireland right now than it is to shoot in like LA. So LA, and California is like working through getting some legislation passed to just bring back tax incentives. Like that's why so many projects have moved to Atlanta in America. Just
why would you want to work in LA when you got to give half your money to the state?
I mean, you can't. People can't afford it.
I mean, when you're barely making it, coming up, and you're barely making it as it is.
Yeah, I think the argument for LA is like it's got the best crew, it's got the most actors, great actors, and it's been the hub. It's got studios, it's got all that infrastructure, but it was impossible. You'd have to have like 10 city members or employees of the city on any given set. It's like, and you have to pay them and all these things, which they're taking away those restrictions. But it's money. It's just hard to film there and justify filming there. They're changing that. There's still so much quality in LA, like 100 years of movie making kind of history. But yeah, the money just doesn't make sense. So it's just going everywhere, all across Europe, all across the States. Like I said, tons of indie films are being filmed in the.
It's making it easier on folks to do their own movies. People are learning. I don't need to go to LA.
Right.
Shit here.
Yeah, and like people like Richard Linklater's been in Austin for 30 years, and now they're, building some sound stages, building a lot. And like Matthew McConaughey's fight, the tax incentives are there. They've got the star power. So, little places like that are going to pop up, and they're also going to be able to maybe be a little more free with the content of their film. Like, like a Coen Brothers type film or something.
Right.
Like they'd much rather film in Texas, I imagine.
So, what are your plans? After the great commercial at Black Armored Guns, what?
I'll probably retire off the royalties, right?
What do you want to do? You told the therapist, I want to get in acting. Is that still it, or is it, what, I want to go into this now? What do you want to do? I'm your therapist now.
Yeah. I still, I've been doing a lot more stunt, like training. Got some stunt films kind of lined up that I'm training for, which I'm really excited. Got a couple military films that are in pre-production. And I think I'm just like getting started. I'm 7 years into acting, and it's just like, you're basically like a toddler. And I feel like a lot of people say you don't really hit a stride till like 10 years. And it's just a matter of like, can you stay in and like wait it out that long? It's kind of a war of attrition with like, staying in the industry. So, I've noticed when I first started acting, I was working at a tech company doing 9 to 5, making great money. And I was actually embarrassed to admit that, because there were so many people in their 20s that were like, I'm a waiter and I've got 3 bartending jobs, and like they're hustling. And that was what I always thought, like that starving artist kind of thing.
Right.
And so I didn't really talk about like, oh, what do you do outside of acting? I was afraid to ask people that, because it's like, as actors with our egos, we're like, of course we're not working on other things. We're all about acting. And then a couple years in, I start to notice like George Clooney has a $1 billion tequila company. Ryan Reynolds has a gin company. Like all these people have these other companies, these stars have these companies they've started. And then I started noticing all these working actors that I'm training with out of Atlanta or in Nashville. A lot of them have either a side hustle or some sort of business that they started, and whatever. And I was just like, there's so many entrepreneurs in the acting community, because it's like everyone wants to act full time, but there's just slow times. And so for me, it's I would love to like start a company. I'm not sure what that entails yet. I think I just want to explore that like entrepreneurial side. And like for right now, there's so much of like managing my business as an actor, like that I have to learn. And once I've gotten some projects and done this and that, then it's like, now you need to be like, you have your LLC and start like represent yourself like this. You need to build your team out. You need to start kind of working other angles, putting more out on social media. And so, I would say like outside of acting, there's a couple things I'm kind of exploring, but I'm not 100% sure. That's kind of the balance of like, okay, how much time do I spend on learning to invest my money better that I have versus like spending money on this acting class and this stunt group, and this training. Shooting,
fat money,
stunt training, acting classes. So there's so many costs. And then it's just like, okay, how do I like make this the money that I do have like last, and what could I invest in, maybe company wise,
business part,
equity wise?
I'll tell you that is not easy.
No,
they say business owners work 80 hours a week. To make 40 hours a week worth of money, that kind of stuff. Owners do. And they can't afford to hire somebody to do some of this other stuff. They have to do it.
Well, I've noticed you're a lot like an actor has to like, they start their own podcast, or they like run their social media and produce their own videos, or they learn all these other skills to like bolster their IMDb's, manage their marketing materials. And I've noticed you do that. You have your podcast, you're very like technically proficient. You have all these kind of skills outside of shooting and teaching people to shoot, like you're in building weapons, which I do want to talk to you a little bit about. But yeah, you're having like covered all, so you're kind of in the same boat in a lot of ways.
And
you're a jack of all trades.
And to be honest, I don't trust anybody else with it.
Well, that's something you're gonna have to work on.
Yeah, you just can't. No, stop doing that. I'll do it myself.
Yeah. I mean, that scaling is like always the great. That's the scary part, right? But I am curious. So when you got out in 2009, is that right?
Yeah.
So what? How did you like?
Did you IMDb me? Is that what?
No, we talked about it. I asked you. Just IMDb'd your face and got it from the source.
Yeah.
But what'd you do? Like, how'd you decompress from that and then find purpose?
Well, there you go. So they promoted me to E9 Sergeant Major.
Mm-hmm.
They saw fit to do that, and I appreciate it. But I immediately started looking for a civilian job or a job to do after I retire.
Yeah.
I did not want to be a Sergeant Major.
No.
Didn't want to do it.
No.
In Special Forces, the pinnacle of your career is not Sergeant Major, as some would think. It is a team sergeant.
Yeah.
You're in charge of that ODA.
Yeah.
Finally being allowed to drive these guys the way you want to drive them, and so on and so forth. That was the pinnacle of my career. And then I had something really bad happen, and I had to become I became a first sergeant in the group support company, and became the op-cadet sergeant major, stuff like that. But once they promoted me to sergeant major, or wanted to promote me, I declined. I was like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I found work at a couple of tactical companies, that said, sure, we'll hire you right off the bat. So I put in my paperwork, retired. Went overseas for a couple of contracts. It was okay for, the money's good, but I wasn't able to see Houston as much. I was gone all the damn time.
Yeah.
That didn't help. And then I started working for a company in Massachusetts, that had hired me to be do their training for them, and not a tactical company, as a technology company rather. That's what I meant to say. And that's where I figured out I do not like civilians.
Yeah.
Don't like them one bit.
They can be rough sometimes.
No. It's the nobody can prioritize anything. I'm giving them, in a meeting, we're in a fucking meeting for an hour and a half, on the phone or Zoom or whatever. And they say, hey, Byron, I need this this document by COB Friday. Okay, got it. 10 minutes later after the meeting, that document's in their inbox.
Yeah.
That's the way I work. That's the way most of us work that were in the military.
Yeah.
Get this task out of my way so I can move on to other stuff.
Yeah.
And then, come Monday morning, they're like, hey, where's this document at? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was in your inbox the day of. And they're like, so it just shows me that they didn't even bother checking their inbox.
Right. Yeah.
What I mean? It was always that way.
Yeah.
And I just could not work with civilians, and you can't fire them,
Yeah.
Not like in the military, what I mean? And,
Yeah.
But in the civilian world, you're opening your company up to a lawsuit for firing folks,
Yeah.
in those type of companies. People get fired at McDonald's every day. Different story. But I found myself not able to deal with civilians. And, in Iraq, Afghanistan, especially in Iraq, though, during the surge and all that kind of stuff, I'm not downplaying this. This is actually true, especially in our unit. We were godlike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
every night.
I've heard about A15.
Every night. And, we set a precedence then that they still use today in that unit as the SOP.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So you can imagine going from that to working with civilians, engineers and stuff like that. You just want to suck start in 1911. To get out of that. So when they decided to close their doors, I was like, Alhamdulillah. It's like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I'm ready to get out of here. Because if I'd quit, it'd been a different story. But I waded through it, got my severance and all that kind of stuff. But they decided to close their doors. So I was like, oh, thank you. And I've not worked for another human since.
Yeah.
I won't work for anybody else again.
Nice.
No, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to do my own thing.
Did you start a company right after, or did you just hang out?
No, I just hung out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually had a training company prior to being the company closing their doors. I had a training company that I had kind of LLC'd, and I was waiting for them to close the doors. Then I took over that same training I was doing there. I started doing with this company.
Nice.
But then I was like, then Houston called me and said, Dad, let's make guns. And yes, it's a difficult trip, but this is our business, me and him. It's just me and him, and this is our jet. We can run it any fucking way we want, run it to the ground if we want to, but I got nobody telling me to do shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the fun part about this.
Yeah.
And I don't have executives going, well, I understand you want these parts in your firearm, but these parts made in the Philippines are cheaper. Let's use those. This is what we're using. And I don't have them telling me that. I use American-made everything for every part, and I'm the one that chooses what parts goes in that gun, not some executive above me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So, that's pretty much it.
That's cool.
That's it.
What, do you want to talk about your time in Iraq? I'm curious, do you keep up with any of the Iraqis?
Actually, there's a couple of interpreters that we had, but they were American citizens that were assigned to us.
Yeah.
So they had jobs, so they were reservists, and they had jobs in the States as doctors, lawyers, whatever.
Yeah.
But they joined the Army to be an interpreter. So they, let's not get it twisted. They were not quitting their job as a lawyer or doctor or whatever it may be to become an interpreter for a SIF. There's some rules that they still get paid whatever they were making there, plus their rank as an interpreter. So they were still doing it. And plus they got to go to Iraq, which is where they were from to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. And but those guys were running and gunning right beside of us. Some of them were gunning. Most of them were just running with us, that kind of thing. Yeah. But we still keep up with a couple of those today. All of us do. And we were running with a unit called the ICTF, Iraqi Counterterrorism Force, training them and running with them on the ground. And just found out a couple of months ago when my buddy Travis took over as CSM, that one of those assaulters became a citizen, went through the Q course, went through Sephartic, and now he's being assigned to A15.
Oh, wow.
So he was an assaulter with us as them, and now he's
partner force.
He said, "Fuck this! I'm just going to go to the other side of the curtain and do what they do." So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Those guys were. I'm not sitting here saying they're great assaulters. What I'm saying is, they love their country and they wanted to work for, to make it better, and they did a really good job at it. There's some videos out there on that. If you look up Iraqi special forces or special forces in Iraq and stuff like that, you'll see some videos out there of those guys running and gunning.
Yeah.
So yes, good time. That's it. It's a good time.
Sounds good.
And I work a lot now with Carl Erickson, who's he owns a Tactical Rifleman. He's on YouTube. You look him up. You know who he is.
Yeah, Doc was telling us about him.
So he and I were the same unit during that same heyday right there. And if you ever get to talk to him, he'll tell you the same thing. It was a lot of fun. It really was.
Yeah.
Unlike working with civilians in Massachusetts, big difference. What was that?
Oh yeah, that
Rambo,
goes to like
Rambo's talking about. I was in charge of $1 million pieces of equipment, blah blah blah, and look at me now. You remember Rambo 1?
Right. No, I mean that's I felt that too, but I was wondering just because you guys were like at the peak of what anyone in the Army was doing.
Correct. Yeah.
Every day. So when I say like the military gave me task and purpose, it's like you guys had the most important one on a daily basis. So not having that just had to be such a shock to the system.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, when I was, what they call that, A-capping, they call it A-capping.
Yeah.
Or,
I forget what it stands for, but getting out of the Army is like the ACAP process. Yeah.
3-month process or whatever that was. I can remember sitting in a briefing and they're talking about, transitioning your life and all this kind of stuff. It required briefing that you have to, so they can check it off, right?
Yeah.
And coming to tears because it was over.
Yeah.
That whole thing. I remember crying, I sucked it up, but it was rough. That was, that part.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I wouldn't go back now. I like it where I'm at now. It's not so bad.
Pretty great here.
I rarely you leave the property here now. So.
I know you got it all here. Got your own shooting range.
But that's
house.
good.
You can hunt deer from your bathroom.
What's that?
You can hunt deer from your bathroom.
Hunt deer from my bathroom, correct, with the muzzleloader. So what we looking like on time over there, Annalise? It says it on that thing.
A minute or an hour and 3 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Boom. Did you get that? See? All unscripted. We're just sitting there bullshitting the whole time.
Just being us.
So what we need is we need to bring you in so we can like bring a third guest in and you and I sit here and grill him.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like you know what I mean? Or
I'm down.
Bring in somebody else and have a panel discussion about what the fuck ever.
Yeah, let's do it.
These will never be live because one day we might want to handle a firearm or something. Of course, the YouTubes and all that does not allow that.
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah.
People
start doing classes.
People off themselves live. That's why.
Oh God.
So.
Well, let's not do that.
So yeah, we do it all right. I won't edit. I don't edit this. The only thing that's really edits these two cameras switch back and forth between me and you, whoever's talking. Otherwise, I don't. All the uhs and all that. I don't jump cut. None of that shit. It is what it is.
Yeah.
What? Sue's video was 4 hours.
4 hours? Wow.
Yes. Sue LaRue talk. You got to meet Sue. You won't like him one day.
What's his story? I don't know, Sue.
He was an A15 with me and Carl.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he talked for 4 hours, and I got to break it up in 30-minute videos for Patreon and YouTube.
Nice.
And just keep releasing them as I can because nobody's going to sit there and just go, oh, Sue LaRue, 4 hours, fuck that, and just keep going, So I'll break it up, that kind of thing. So, but that's it. Anything else going on? I mean, that's pretty much it. We shot every gun there was. Oh, you got to shoot the Black Dread today.
Yes.
Right? But you've shot a fully automatic rifle before. It's not that big.
I actually don't know if I have.
That thing just sat there. It wasn't hard to shoot, was it?
No, not hard to shoot. Just if you stop thinking about it, it'll kick you back. It's a good one to stick to your fundamentals on. Remember your fundamentals, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
No, we shot guns. We'll shoot some more. Mm-hmm. We'll come back and record some more stuff. So
hit the simulator, and we'll do some recording for the simulator too when we're doing that.
Yeah,
just so
that'd be great.
See you handling the scenario stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I obviously want to get better at shooting for acting, but it's like a life skill that I'm realizing. I'm kind of in a stage where I'm like, okay, I focused on like just learning acting or acting for a long time, but I think I forgot to live in some ways. And I'm like, what do I want to pursue? Shooting.
Yeah, right.
I want to get back into riding horses, just like things that
riding horses and shooting.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a man. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to. It's like, what's the manliest shit I can do? And I'm like, oh yeah,
You sound like my friend Matt Dorito. Matt Dorito, when he comes here, all he wants to do is man shit, and I love it.
Yeah.
He's the former bass player for a band called Pop Evil.
Okay.
And again, somebody weird that I know. He's not weird. It's weird that I know him, right?
Yeah.
And every time he comes here, he's like, let's do man shit. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. Let's just go do man shit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going out without a plan.
Speaking of me, I mean, as a musician, I want to learn an instrument. So that's a man thing to do, or a
Right.
woman. Anyone can do it, but I would feel more manly if I knew how to play guitar. So you can be my accountability partner because now the whole internet knows.
He works for. He's a foreman or director. Matt, don't get mad at me if I don't remember what your job position was. Kind of like nobody knows what Chandler Bing's job was in Friends, right?
No clue.
He works for. God damn it, 1911 company. Again, this is my TBI kicking in. High dollar 1911 company in Indiana.
Okay. I don't know.
Matt, you can put it in the comments. Remind me what that company is.
Sorry,
I
Matt.
was like, fuck. He's probably texting me right now. So he quit the band, a very popular band, to help run a 1911 or build 1911s.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. How does that work, right? So
I mean,
he
our
was
friend
tired of that
Scott
life.
was
He
a
was tired
drummer
of
for
that
a
life.
band for like 10 years. That's our mutual friend that we met through. So it can wear on you. Yeah, musician life is tough.
Yeah. So all right. Well,
All right.
we'll wrap this up. Thank you, Bubba. And,
Thanks for having me.
You guys be safe, and we will hit him again probably in the next month or so. We'll do another one. Cool.
Love it. Signing off. Considine out.